Welcome, everyone, to this free webinar on conducting a literature review with ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows and Mac. My name is Ivana Radovojevic, and I'm the Project Coordinator and Client Relations Manager with ATLAS.ti in our Europe office. So what we're going to see today is a global overview of ATLAS.ti in both the versions for Windows and Mac. We'll see a quick introduction to the software and how you can begin your own project using ATLAS.ti. And all of this with a focus on conducting a literature review. So during the presentation, while we're seeing ATLAS.ti and all the different features, I recommend that you also think about your own project and try to imagine how you can apply your own data or articles to using it in ATLAS.ti. And now if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, please feel free to write them in the chat box that we have here. And at the end, we'll have time to go through any questions or doubts. Now that being said, I've also put up our contact information here, and I also invite you all to take a note. And so if you ever have any doubts about ATLAS.ti tomorrow or next week or next month, whenever, please don't hesitate to contact us and we'll always be happy to help. So you can send us an email by writing to clients@atlas.ti.com, and I've also put up here my personal email address. And you can also give us a call by dialing any of these numbers. If you don't see the phone number for your country listed here, just take a look on our website to see the full list of all our international phone numbers. So I would like to begin by saying, what is a literature review? Just so that we're all starting on the same page here. So a literature review is a synthesis of all of the previously done work that is most relevant to our topic of study. And so by conducting the literature review, what we want to do is tell a compelling story about the literature. In other words, we want to be developing an argument, not just constructing a library. So it's important to synthesize all of the previous work that's been done, and then use that for your own paper and to move your own study forward. Another way to think about this, as we like to say, is that you want to try to describe the forest, not the trees. And so this is also a good thing to keep in mind when it comes to actually elaborating your literature review. And why is this all important? Well, to put it most simply, it's because we want to avoid reinventing the wheel. We don't want to do something that somebody else has already done. And so with the literature review, you can see what is currently known about this topic, and in doing so, you can describe the state of the art of the knowledge. So all of the knowledge that we currently have related to our specific topic. And by doing so, you can also identify the gaps in current understanding. So what don't we know about this current topic? And so by identifying a gap in the literature, you can answer the question of how can my study advance knowledge to contribute something new or original or from a different perspective or approach. And so this is why the literature review is so important, because it can help situate our own study and make sure that we're contributing something new and advancing knowledge. So what about the role of using software? Well, traditionally, we work manually, of course, collecting all of our literature, the articles and books, and taking notes on everything. And of course, this is also an absolutely valid way to conduct a literature review. But today, there are a great variety of softwares available that can facilitate this process. So perhaps some of you have already heard about some bibliographic management tools out there, such as Mendeley, Zotero, or EndNote. And these are also great for the literature review, for collecting your articles and keeping the information organized and while you annotate everything. But then what we're going to be seeing today is a qualitative data analysis software. And so what's the difference there? Well, with a qualitative data analysis software, such as ATLAS.ti, not only can you collect all of your information and keep it well organized to keep track of everything, but you can also conduct a complete analysis of all this information directly inside ATLAS.ti. Moreover, you can take advantage of the different tools that ATLAS.ti offers to visualize your findings and create networks, or to interrogate the information by using the different analysis tools. So we'll see a bit of each of these things during today's presentation. And so what is ATLAS.ti? Well, it's a software that's going to facilitate the qualitative analysis of any kind of unstructured or semi-structured data. And so that's exactly what text is, that we need to read the text and then identify the meanings and draw our conclusions based on that information. Now, today, of course, we're focusing on articles and literature, since we're talking about the literature review here, but also just so that you all are aware that with ATLAS.ti, you can analyze a great variety of sources of information as well. So if you also need to analyze images, video, or audio files, maps such as geodata or social media data from Twitter, for example, well, you can also import all of these different kinds of sources of information and likewise analyze them. And where does ATLAS.ti come from? Well, the first version was developed in the Technical University of Berlin in 1989. And so ATLAS.ti has been on the commercial market for well over 20 years now. And today we count on ATLAS.ti for Windows and Mac. And we'll see a bit of both now. Also, if you have a tablet and you like to work on the go, you can download our ATLAS.ti app for free from our website, and then also use it on your Android tablet or iPad, and continue conducting your literature review from there. Now, just a little bit of information on the different kinds of licenses that we offer in case you decide to purchase ATLAS.ti. So always with ATLAS.ti, it's going to be a one-time purchase and you get the full software. There's no hidden functionalities or extra costs there. But we offer some different licenses to cater to everyone's different needs. So we have perpetual lifetime licenses for individual and group users. But if you're a student, you can purchase ATLAS.ti at a significantly reduced cost, and you can get this for a period of 6 months or 2 years. If you're interested in getting 5 or more licenses at a time, you'll also have the option to lease the licenses, or just to pay for each year that you want to use ATLAS.ti. Now, most importantly, what I like to emphasize here is our perpetual free trial. So you can download our free trial version from our website and then already have the full software of ATLAS.ti installed on your computer. And this is a perpetual free trial, meaning that there's no time limit on it. The only limitation is in the size of the project that you can create, but it's certainly an excellent way to begin familiarizing yourself with ATLAS.ti and then trying it out for your own project and seeing how it suits your needs. And all of that being said, if you do decide to purchase ATLAS.ti after seeing today's presentation, please write me an email and let me know, and I'll send you a 10% discount coupon. So don't forget that you can all count on that coupon. Now, in addition to this, we also offer a great variety of learning resources on our website. So you can find more free training options, such as the webinar that we're in today. We also have premium trainings if you want to learn about ATLAS.ti in depth. And of course, you'll find our full manual, quick tour. We have a great series of how-to documents as well. And in particular, our video tutorials are a great way to revise any aspects of ATLAS.ti. So for example, today we're going to be seeing a global overview of the software. And so it's going to be a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. But if there's anything that you feel like you might not have understood very well or you'd like to review it, well, don't worry. You can always take a look at our video tutorials, and you'll see there that we have a one video for each specific part. But of course, if you ever have any questions or doubts regarding anything with ATLAS.ti, you can always count on our free perpetual support. You can reach us via telephone or email, and we'll always be happy to help. Now, I like to show this image because this is probably a familiar picture for any of us who have analyzed any text manually before. And what do? Well, you go through reading the text and underlying the important pieces of information. You take some notes in the margin area. Maybe you're already starting to draw connections across the different ideas. And of course, this is a wonderful process in and of itself. This is the research process. But as we can see here, it can quite quickly become a mess. And this is exactly where ATLAS.ti comes in. ATLAS.ti is a tool that will accompany us throughout the entire process of our research project, and it'll help you to stay organized and make sure that you're staying on the right track, and then of course to actually conduct your analysis and generate your rigorous findings and results. So what we'll see today is that ATLAS.ti is a tool that can help facilitate the quality of your work by facilitating the transparency, coherency, and communicability of your project. Also, with ATLAS.ti, you can maintain a systematic organization of all your sources of information. And so what we're going to start seeing now is also how you can conduct complex analyses with the different codes and quotations, writing memos, creating semantic networks, and using the advanced analysis tools. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at ATLAS.ti for Mac. So I'm going to start with the Mac version here today, and then we'll take a look at the Windows version. So here we are when we open ATLAS.ti for Mac. This is the main window that appears. Along the right-hand side, you can see all the projects that have been opened on this computer. And here you can either import an already existing project and continue working on it, or you can create a new project. And for today, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project of a literature review on a study that we've conducted on children and happiness. So we're looking here at the effects of having children on parents' happiness, and that famous myth that children make you unhappier or make you happier, and well, what's going on there? And so here we are in ATLAS.ti for Mac. And so what do we have here? Well, on the left-hand side, we have the Project Explorer panel. From here, we're going to be able to see every part of our project. Right now, we can see that we don't have any documents in the project because, of course, we just created it. So to add the documents, you just click on the plus button here, Import Documents, and then search to where you have your documents on your computer and import them. Now, a document in ATLAS.ti refers to any source of information that you're going to analyze. So that can be text documents, but it can also be images or videos and all those different kinds of data that I mentioned at the beginning. So let's take a look at what we have here now. Now we've imported 4 documents and we can see them on the left-hand side. And before we begin reading the articles and actually carrying out the analysis, I'd like to organize these documents a little bit so that we're starting off well with the project. You can organize your documents by accessing the Document Manager. So every entity in ATLAS.ti has its own manager. And from there you can see more information on it and edit or organize it. So let's take a look at this Document Manager. You can access it, or you can use the quick access by clicking on the button here. And now we've opened the Document Manager. We see the full list of documents and then some more information about it. What kind of document this is, how many quotations it has created, so we'll see about that right now, and who's worked on it and when. So indeed, ATLAS.ti does keep track of everyone's username. So if you also plan on doing any teamwork, you can certainly count on ATLAS.ti for that as well. If you click on any document, down below you can see a preview of the document. And on the right-hand side in ATLAS.ti for Mac, we have the Inspector panel. This panel is always going to show more information on whatever object you have currently selected. And so you can use this Inspector panel to get a nice overview of what's going on with this object that we have selected here. And you can also easily and directly edit any part of it. So if you want to change the title, perhaps to give a more descriptive name, you can easily do that just by clicking here and changing it. So let's take a look. For example, when it comes to the literature review, well, it's very recommendable to put in the title of each document the author's name and the year. And so that way you're always going to have easily on hand how to source this document, how to cite it when you're writing out your paper. And so I like to put the author and the year and then the title so we also know what it's about. So that's one of the ways that you can organize and prepare your documents. Now, in addition to this, you have a comment space for each document. And how does this work? Well, the comment space is there so you can provide any more contextual information specific to this particular document. So any single object in ATLAS.ti can be commented on. So what would we do in the case of documents here? Well, for the literature review, so if you have any articles imported here, definitely always we recommend to write out the full reference in the comment space, depending on whatever reference style you use. And so what you can do when you start your literature review in ATLAS.ti is add your documents, perhaps change the names if they need to be cleaned up a bit, and write out all their full references. And then you'll always have this information easily available to you. And later, when it comes to writing up your bibliography, with just a few clicks, you can have it all put together for you. Now, finally, another way that we can organize our documents and all our articles is by grouping them. To create a group of documents, all you have to do is select the documents you want to group together, and then click drag and drop on the left-hand side. And then when you let go, ATLAS.ti has created the group, and you can now add the group name. So in this case, let's imagine that I have here 2 articles that are from a journal on parenting. And then I have another 2 articles from a journal on family relations. So this is just an example to show perhaps if you want to group your documents according to the different journals that they came from. Or you can group them according to the different topics that they're exploring there. Another important thing to keep in mind with groups is that any single document can belong to more than one group. There's absolutely no limitations here. So you can also add documents to a group just by clicking, dragging, and dropping. And if you click on any document, ATLAS.ti will show which groups it belongs to by putting it in bold here on the left-hand side. So those are some of the ways in which we can prepare all of our articles and keep everything nicely organized there. And now let's take a look at how we can analyze this information. So from the left-hand side, we already see the documents here. And I'm going to go ahead and open one of them that we have. Just by double-clicking, you can open a document. And ATLAS.ti will load it in the main working space here. So again, we have that nice inspector panel on the right-hand side that's giving us more information. So if we wanted to edit anything, we still could. Now let's take a look at what we have here in our document. So how do we begin our analysis here? Well, now would be the point that we start reading the articles that we have imported. And as you're reading, whenever you find anything interesting or important, something that you want to capture for your analysis, all you have to do is highlight that segment of the text. So you can highlight as much or as little as you would like. And then in order to save this, you simply right-click on the quotation, and then you have some options here. You can create a free quotation. And so by doing so, you've just saved this segment of the information. So we've just created a quotation, and we call it a free quotation because it doesn't have anything else associated to it. If we take a look on the right-hand margin panel, we see now that there's this blue vertical bar, and that's indicating the size and location of a quotation in the document. So we just highlight, right-click, and we can create quotations to save these different segments of information. But another way in which we can actually capture our analysis of this information is by associating codes to these quotations. Now, what is a code? Well, to put it simply, a code is just a word or a short phrase that's describing something you're seeing in the information. So you can use codes to be descriptive, to be describing what's going on in the quotation, or you can use codes to synthesize an analytical point, if perhaps you want to, if it's referring to some theory or anything like that. I mean, you can create codes of any kind that you would like, and as many codes as you need, or as many types of codes. And so another way that you can think of codes is as tags that you go associating to the quotations. So let's take a look at how we can add some codes. I'll go ahead and select this quotation now. Now I'm going to select Add Coding. And we have this box up here where we can enter the code names that we want to associate to this quotation. So taking a look at the example that we have here, we can see that this quotation is talking about parents reporting lower levels of happiness. And it's also talking about life satisfaction marital satisfaction, and mental well-being. So as you can see, you can associate as many codes as you would like at a time to any quotation. And then we'll click Add. And now we see in the margin panel, the quotation has been saved, and we have these different codes associated to it. So this is how we can analyze the data by creating quotations and associating our codes. Now, imagine you come across a piece of information in an article somewhere, and you love the way that the author has expressed that information, and you want to capture their exact words. To do so, you can use coding in vivo. And what in vivo coding does is it'll create a code out of that exact text that you have selected. So for example, let's see what we have here. So whenever you find anything that you want to capture, all you have to do is highlight that text and then right-click and code in vivo. And ATLAS.ti has just created a code out of this text here. So in vivo coding is a great way to capture these exact expressions or words if you would like. Now finally, as you continue reading your article and saving the quotations and associating the codes, well, it's very likely that you're going to have some codes repeating. And so, of course, you don't want to be creating a new code every time if you already have that code. So how can we use the codes that we've already been creating here? Well, all you have to do is visualize your list of codes in the Project Explorer panel. So right now we have the documents selected here. And if we click on the code icon, we can see our list of codes. And indeed, these are all the codes that we just created now, and ATLAS.ti has saved them here in our list. And so if you want to use any code from your list, well, you can easily do so by once again selecting your quotation, and then just click, drag, and drop the code on top of the quotation, and ATLAS.ti saves that quotation and associates the code. So conducting the coding process in ATLAS.ti can also be as simple as just highlighting the segments of text and dragging and dropping your codes. So that's really the basic foundation of how we conduct analysis in ATLAS.ti. We create quotations and we associate codes. Now imagine as well, while I'm reading this article and I'm creating my codes, a lot of interesting information is coming up here, and it's a very debated and heated topic here. And so I have a lot of ideas going through my mind and a lot of analyses that are sort of already forming in my head that I wanna write this down somewhere. And so where can we do that? Well, to write down anything that you would like to take note of in ATLAS.ti, you can use a memo. A memo is essentially a notebook. It's a blank space that you can use to note down whatever information you would like. So again, from this plus button in the top corner, I'm just going to click there and I'm going to select New Memo. And here we have it now. ATLAS.ti has opened a memo. From here, we can change the name of the memo. So for example, I'm going to start writing about raising children, and everything that I'm finding about the author talks about raising children and the effects. And so in this way, you can elaborate your ideas or analyses, descriptions. You can also use memos just to note down any doubts or questions you have as they come along. And so you can create as many memos as you'd like, and in this way capture all the information on all your different concepts or topics, and then use that to begin synthesizing this information that you're reading. Now, I've opened this memo and written in it because of what we were reading in the quotation here. That's what gave me the idea. And so I also want to make sure that I remember that this memo has to do with this quotation. And so you can do that by linking the memo to the quotation as well. All you have to do is visualize your list of memos in the left-hand side. And here we have it, the one we just wrote. And to associate it here, once again, it's just dragging and dropping. And now we can see the memo here. So with ATLAS.ti, you'll create your quotations and associate your codes, and you can also associate your memos, and in that way go capturing all of your analyses. So for conducting the literature review, I'd also like to point out that you can also use the codes to create, for example, a code for any research gaps that you find. And whenever you identify a research gap in the literature, well, you can associate that code. And then later, when it comes to when you need to elaborate the justification for your own study and to describe the research gap that you're going to be trying to fill with your own work, well, you can just tell ATLAS.ti to show you all the quotations associated to the code research gap, and it'll immediately bring them up for you. And then you'll have it all put together there so that you can elaborate your discussion of the research gap that you identified in your literature review. In the same way, you can create a memo to also write about the research gap, the state of the art, and what your opinions and perspectives are, and all the different sources of information you're reading. And so how can we revise this information? So let's imagine now that I've read all the articles and I've coded everything. And so now I'm ready to reflect on what's been found and to see what kind of research gap I'm going to be tackling with my literature review. So to recuperate any information, you can export a report from ATLAS.ti. And you can export reports from any of the managers. So we already saw the document manager. And the great news is that with ATLAS.ti, all of the managers have the exact same interface. So if we know how to use one, we'll know how to use another. So let's take a look at the codes manager. So here we have it, our list of codes. And we can see the quotations that have been associated to our codes. We can edit them as well if we would like to change the name. You can even give colors to the codes to help keep everything organized. We can describe our codes in the comment space or write out the definition of the code if we would like. And in the same way as we saw before, you can also group together your codes. And so you can show which codes have to do with the different topics that you're investigating, let's say. And so those are some of the ways that you can also organize your list of codes from the code manager. Now, I opened the code manager here because I wanted to see all of the information we found on research gaps. So I want to export that report. To do so, all you have to do is select the code you're interested in. And then up here, you have some different options for exporting this information. So you can export it to a table if you would like, to Excel, or you can export it as a report. And so let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do here. On the right-hand side, you just have to tell ATLAS.ti what information you want included in this report. And on the left-hand side, you see a preview of how this report is going to look. So I have this code research gap. And as I said, I want to see all the quotations that are associated to this code. So now we can see the name of the quotations here, which, okay, that's nice, but I'd actually like to see the full quotation because this isn't telling me very much. So I just need to click on the drop-down arrow and select Content. And now we can see the full content of each of these quotations. From here, you can continue selecting more information if you want to also have it included. If you have any memos linked as well and you want to see the content that you wrote regarding each quotation, if you want to see the other codes that have been associated to this quotation. So you can really go into as much or as little detail as you would like. And you can always see the preview here. And then once you're happy with it, you can save it as an external Word document. And so then later, when I'm writing about the research gap that I've identified in my literature review, I don't even have to go back into ATLAS.ti. I can just refer to this report that I've created, and I have all the information there. So that's one of the ways we can export some of the information from ATLAS.ti. And with that, we've really seen the foundation of how to analyze information in ATLAS.ti, to create quotations and associate codes and memos. In any moment, You can describe any of these objects in more detail by writing in its comment space. And so this is important for keeping track of all of your work. And the same goes for quotations as well. We see here the quotation. And you can indeed also change the name of the quotation if you wanted to give it a more descriptive name, for example. So here we have a quote from Potavi. And so you can give the name. And for example, in the comment space, so imagine this is a quotation that's very important for my literature review, and I want to even directly quote it in my own literature review. And so I want to make sure I keep track of this quotation. So I'm also going to describe in the comment space the author, year, and page number. So you can also write that out, and then you'll always have that easily available with the quotation. So those are just some of the different kinds of tips or tricks, things you can do with ATLAS.ti. And so now with this, I would like to move on to ATLAS.ti for Windows. And let's also see how we can use that version for our literature reviews. So here we are in the main window of, the welcome window of ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. And so we have options to create a new project, import an existing one. If you've been working on your tablet, so you can import the project here as well and continue working on it. And if you've worked with an older version of ATLAS.ti, you can absolutely import your project into the newest version and then continue working from there. Down below and along the left-hand side, once again, ATLAS.ti is showing a list of the different projects that have been opened in this computer. So now I'm going to go ahead and open our Children and Happiness project, but I'm opening a version that we've already analyzed here so that we can already see how a project in ATLAS.ti can look like. And so now here we are in the main interface of ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows. Once again, we have that Explorer panel on the left-hand side, and we can directly visualize and access any part of our project. Along the top, you have the main menu that's organized into a series of tabs, so you can easily find all the different functions. And if it's your first time using ATLAS.ti, no need to worry because we always have help text available. If you just hover over any of the functions, you'll see what exactly that button does. And moreover, you can also undo and redo up to 100 steps of your work. So you can sit back, relax, and just go through analyzing, and if you make any mistakes, well, no worries, you have that undo button there. So you can add documents to ATLAS.ti for Windows by clicking here and then adding your files from your computer. But if you work with a bibliographic reference manager, you also have the option to import your references directly into ATLAS.ti. So whether you work with EndNote or Mendeley or Zotero or whichever bibliographic reference manager you prefer, all you need to do is export your references in EndNote XML file in that format. And then here you just click and open your file. And then you'll also have the option to tell ATLAS.ti how you want it to organize all of these articles. So ATLAS.ti is going to automatically create groups of all the different documents based on these different factors. And so you can choose what information you want to have or what you don't want. You can also have ATLAS.ti include the author name and publishing year directly in the title of the document when it imports it. And so then by clicking import, you'll have all your articles put into ATLAS.ti and ready for your analysis. So let's just take a quick look here at how coding looks like in ATLAS.ti for Windows. So I've just opened a document here. I'm going to scroll down now. And so we can see we already have some quotations and codes here. And so once again, it's the exact same practice we saw before. To save the information, you just highlight that segment of the text. And then you can right-click, and you can create a free quotation without anything associated. Or you can enter your code names. And of course, you can also drag and drop any of your already existing codes onto the quotation. And the same goes for memos. And so we have the same practice with ATLAS.ti 8 for Windows, with the coding and creating quotations. It's all the same philosophy. And as you may have also noticed, while I've been showing how we can conduct analyses in ATLAS.ti, well, I've been showing by right-clicking right on the quotation, but you also have all the same options up here. So you can use whichever you prefer. Now, let's imagine I've just added this article and I haven't actually read it yet. But I would like to have a quick global overview of what this article is about and what the authors are talking about here. So you can do so by creating a word list or a word cloud. So just by clicking here, ATLAS.ti generates a word cloud of the most frequently occurring words in this article. And so now we can quickly and easily see what are the main concepts that are coming out here, talking about children, satisfaction, married individuals perhaps. You can easily remove any words from this count just by right-clicking and then adding it to the stop word list, so it's not included in the count of words. And up top, you also have some other options for editing the word cloud if you would like. And if you want to save this word cloud, you just click here, and then you can save it as an external image file. And then you can even include this in your final report or your presentation if you would like. So you have that option easily available there. Now, taking a look at this word cloud, well, let's see. I can see the author's talking a lot about satisfaction. It's come up very many times. And I'd like to see more about this. And so what is the author saying about satisfaction and well, how are children affecting the satisfaction? I'm going to go back to this article now, and I want to see more about this, satisfaction. To quickly and easily identify these possibly relevant segments of information, you can use auto-coding. What auto-coding does is it'll search for any word that you specify, as we said, satisfaction, and then whenever it finds this word, it'll create a quotation for you and associate a code to that quotation. So all you have to do is tell ATLAS.ti which code you want it to associate. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make a new code of satisfaction. And then you just tell ATLAS.ti what size of the quotation you want it to create. So whether just to highlight that word or that sentence or the whole paragraph, you can choose. And now here, I'm going to select Confirm Matches. And why am I doing this? Well, because I want to manually confirm each match that the auto-coding finds. And so let's begin. Let's take a look at what we're going to have here. So here we are. ATLAS.ti has found the word satisfaction and has highlighted the full sentence of that word. Now, it's found the word in the abstract here. And well, personally, I'm not very interested in coding this and saving this quotation. So I'm going to go ahead and skip it. And here we are again in the abstract. Now the keywords. And so this is why we always recommend confirming the matches so that you can make sure that what's being coded is indeed something relevant for your own study. But you can easily go through all the quotations. And here we are. Now ATLAS.ti has found another quotation in the text. I can read it and I can say, yes, okay, that's very interesting. And I want to code it. So ATLAS.ti created the quotation and associated the code. So in this way, you can quickly and easily go through the contents of your document and then identify these relevant segments of information based on whatever term you're searching for. If I unselect Confirm Matches and click Code It, ATLAS.ti will go ahead and code all of the occurrences of when it finds this word. So auto-coding can be a great help to identify where this information is coming up. And there we have it. So with the word cloud and auto-coding, and of course manual coding as we saw, we've seen a lot of different ways of how we can analyze text documents and analyze our articles. Creating our quotations, writing in our memos, and then collecting all of this information together. Now I'd like to take a look at how can we visualize all this information that we're finding here. What I want to show is how we can create a network. Under the Home tab, you just click on New Entities, and you have here the different options for creating any of these entities. I'm going to click on Network now. And in this network, well, since happiness is such an important part of this study, one of the main goals of my literature review is to define happiness. And so in the different articles and blogs that we've analyzed here, we had a lot of different possible definitions, and so I now want to analyze that. ATLAS.ti has just opened this new network for me, this blank space, and it's opened it as a separate window that's now floating. If you would like, you can always dock any of these windows in the main working space, and conversely, you can also float any of the windows. So this goes for managers, documents, memos. Any of the windows can be floated or docked, so you can adjust it according to your preferences. So for now, I'm going to keep my network docked here. And let's see, what can we do now? We have this blank space. Well, with ATLAS.ti, you can visualize any part of your project in a network. So as I said, I'm looking at definitions of happiness here, so I'm going to begin by adding my codes that I have on the different definitions of happiness. To add any object to a network, all you have to do is click, drag, and drop, and you have it here. So as you can see with the codes that we have in this project, we've already organized them by giving them different colors. We've grouped them, as you can also see by their color, which codes are in the same group. And we're showing as well the main overarching codes, so the definition of happiness, and as well the subcodes. So by using these prefixes, we're also indicating that fulfillment is a way of defining happiness or having a long-term view. And so we already get an idea of how we can organize the codes to give them a bit more meaning here. But okay, going back to our network. So as I just said, these are subcodes of our main code here, and I want to show that in my network. So I want to link these codes together. To do that, you just select the code that you want to link, and then from the little red circle that appears, you click, drag, and drop towards the other code that you want to link it to. And when you let go, ATLAS.ti gives you a series of options so that you can give a name to this relation. So just click, drag, and drop from the red circle, and then choose a name. Now, ATLAS.ti gives these names by default as suggestions, but you can, of course, edit this and create and put any relation name that you would like in order to describe the information here. So now we have a nice little code hierarchy here showing a framework of what I found on the different definitions of happiness from this research, from this literature review. So what else can we do with this? Well, if you go to the View tab, you have some more options to visualize more information on these different objects. So you remember that comment space that we mentioned before? Well, if you use the comment space and write out all your code definitions, you can visualize that directly in the network, so you can see what exactly each code means. You can also visualize the frequencies, so you can see the groundedness of each code, or how many quotations this code has associated to it, and you can see the density, how many links this code has with another code in the project. And so frequencies are great because it also gives you a better idea of where the information is coming up in your project. So we can see which concepts are more or less saturated based on our literature review. So now imagine taking a look here at happiness being subjective. I can see that I have 7 quotations associated. And I'd like to refresh myself on what quotations were these. What was it that they said about happiness being subjective? I want to import these quotations. To do that, you just right-click on the quotation, and then you go to Import Neighbors. A neighbor simply refers to any object that's been associated to this one here. So you see the different options that you have. And as I said, I'm particularly interested in the quotations. So I'm going to click on quotations there. And great, now we see the different quotations that were associated. We can also see that this quotation has been associated to this code and to this code. So ATLAS.ti remembers all these different relations and associations, and it'll show that in the network too. But now I'm seeing here the names of the quotations, but once again, I want to see the full content. This isn't telling me enough here. I want to see actually what is the quotation consisting of. Well, you just go up under View again, click Preview, and there we have it. Now we can read the quotations directly from the network. If you have image or video quotations as well, you'll be able to preview those too. So now that I've imported all this extra information here, my network's become a bit messy and I'd like to reorder it. I'm going to go back to the Network tab, and if we take a look here, we can easily fit the network to our window so we can see everything all at once. And we can take advantage of the different automatic layout options that ATLAS.ti offers. So you can use these different layout options to find the one that best describes your network or that best suits your needs. And so that way you can also keep everything nice and organized. Now, a final point that I'd like to make about networks here is that remember, this is a completely flexible tool, and you can link any objects that you would like. And that includes quotations and quotations. So remember here in this network, what I'm trying to do is provide a sort of global definition of happiness based on what I found in the literature review. So it's important that I read these quotations and then reflect on what they're saying and to see how that can inform this definition. And as I'm reading them, well, I find it very interesting that the way that this person is describing happiness seems to be contradicting what this person is saying. And I want to show that relation. So you can link the quotations, just as we saw before. You can give these names to these hyperlinks, these quotation links. So you can also use ATLAS.ti for these kinds of analyses of the text as well, and create these hyperlinks between the different pieces of information so that you can tell the overall story of your findings and of what came out in your literature review. So you can use networks to summarize or synthesize the findings. You can also use the network to synthesize what you found from the literature review, or as well to elaborate your own theoretical framework or model, connecting all the different concepts and showing how they're related. You can show the quotations to show the actual empirical evidences that are backing up these concepts. And I've just been showing how it can work with codes. But as I said, you can import any object into ATLAS.ti and also preview it. So if you want to see the content of your memos, you can also use your memos to describe what's going on in this network or to show your own reflections and analyses. If you want to export this network to include it in your final report or presentation, you can easily do that under Import Export, and then save it as an image file, and then include it anywhere else that you would like. So that's how we can use networks. Now let's take a look at the different analysis tools that we can also take advantage of with ATLAS.ti. First, I'm going to start with the code document table. And in this case, I will float the window so we can see it more clearly. So what does the code document table do? Well, it'll tell us how many codes or how many times any code is appearing in any of our documents. So we can see where in our project the different concepts are coming up. So for example, I want to see on about the relation between children and happiness. Do children increase, decrease happiness, or make no difference? I want to see what the different sources said about this. So I'm going to select these individual codes that I have. As you can see here, though, you can also work with groups of codes if you would like. So if I just wanted to see globally what they say about this, I could just click the group as well. But in this case, I want to focus on these different specific subcodes. And down below, you select the documents that you want to be analyzing here, or the document group. So in this case, I've already organized the documents by the ones that show the comments from readers, and those documents that are based on research reports. And so since I've grouped them together, I'm actually interested in comparing what readers have commented compared to what the different research reports say. So in this case, I do want to select the group. I don't need to look at the specifics of each individual document. And let's see what we have here now. I'm going to go ahead and invert the table so we can see it a bit more clearly. And so what this table is showing us now is that this code occurs 15 times in the documents in this group. And so with this, you can get a nice global overview of where in your literature review the different concepts are coming up. You can use the code document table to compare and contrast. And so this is where we can also see the utility of creating the document groups, because then you can easily compare between reader comments and the research report. And so taking a look at this table, I can see that of the reader comments, the most frequently occurring code is the one that's saying that children are increasing happiness. So okay, that's a very curious finding, and we can clearly see that from the table. But taking a look at the research report documents, the most frequently occurring code is that children lower happiness. And so this is a very interesting finding. And so what I could do now is open a memo and reflect on this and describe what came out from my analysis here and why this may be. Is it that the readers, maybe they're all parents and have personal experience, or they're just more, they feel more heatedly about this whole topic? And so, or maybe there's something wrong with the research here. So why is there this discrepancy between these findings? Well, from there, it's up to each of us as the researcher to conduct our interpretations. And this is just an example. And if you want to save this table, you can see from this button here, you can export it to an Excel file. And from there, you can conduct further quantitative analyses or create a graphic of these results. And so you have that option available easily there. And that's the code document table. Now let's take a look at the code co-occurrence table. Again, I'm going to float it just so we can see it more clearly. What we're doing with this tool is, again, we're creating a table, but we're crossing codes with codes, and we're going to analyze their co-occurrence, or in other words, their coexistence on the same pieces of information. So we want to see, so I'm going to work through an example here. What I want to investigate now is the information that I found on the different positive effects of parenting and the different negative effects of parenting. And so now we can see their co-occurrence. And so what co-occurrence means is the coexistence of any two codes on the same quotation, on the same piece of information. So what this number is telling us is that this code co-occurs 4 times with this code. If you click on the cell, down below you can see those quotations where we have this co-occurrence. And if you double click on any quotation, ATLAS.ti will take you back to that quotation in its full context. So how can we interpret this table? So what can I draw from co-occurrences? Well, let's take a look here where we have a relatively high co-occurrence. So this is interesting that the positive effect of experiencing personal growth is co-occurring so many times with the negative effect of having more worries and stress and responsibilities. And this isn't something that I was expecting when I began my analysis, that these two concepts would be occurring on the same pieces of information. Given this, perhaps there's some sort of underlying explanation for this relationship between them. There might be some emerging relation between these two concepts. So could it be that in order to experience personal growth, one has to undergo more worries and stress? Well, that could be an interpretation that I could make from this table. And so that's an example of one of the ways in which the co-occurrence table can draw our attention to possibly emerging relations between all the different concepts. Or in other words, as we like to say, the co-occurrence table offers a space for serendipity, for something unexpected to come up. Seeing the Excel button up here, you know that you can also export this table to an Excel file if you want to save it or create a graphic. You have that easily available there. And now finally, let's take a look at the query tool. With the query tool, we can recuperate any quotations from our project based on any query that we want to put in of our codes or group of codes. So for example, if I just load one of my codes into the query space, we have it here. Down below, ATLAS.ti is showing me all the quotations associated to this code. So this is a pretty straightforward query. I just told ATLAS.ti, give me all the quotations associated to this code. But the great thing with the query tool is that you can actually ask your research questions now and then see what information comes up from there. So let's do an example. So I have here about families that have children. And actually one of the objectives of my literature review is to find out, what do families with children in particular say about this relationship between having children and happiness? So I want to see all the quotations that have been coded with this code and that have been coded with any of my codes on the relation between happiness and children. And so now, down below, ATLAS.ti is showing me the quotations that have been coded with this code and a code from this group. And so that's an example of how we can work with code groups or individual codes and then conduct these queries to ask our questions and then to see what comes out of it. So you can save this result by exporting it to a report, as we see here. And so this is similar to just as we saw before with Mac. You can either just directly click one of these to have the full content and all the quotations. And if you want to edit it, you have that same box again. And so then I can save what I found on, so when I'm talking about what did families with children say about the relationship between happiness and children, well, I have it right here. So with the query tool, you can use all these different operators available up here. And as always, you'll have that help text so you know what each operator does. But just so that you're aware that you can use the different set operators, semantic operators, and proximity operators, and then really interrogate your data here. Finally, you can also edit the scope if you want to focus on a specific set of documents too. And so again, you can select one document or a group of documents. So if I want to see about families with children and what they said about the relationship between happiness and children, I want to see specifically what the readers said about this. So then I can adjust the scope, and then ATLAS.ti will only show me those quotations. So the query tool offers a great way to interrogate your data and to see what quotations can come up from the different questions that you want to ask. And so with that, we've seen a quick global overview of ATLAS.ti for Mac and ATLAS.ti for Windows. And so we still have, there's of course many more features to ATLAS.ti that you can explore yourself with the free demo version. Or by visiting our YouTube channel, you can also see all of our video tutorials there and find lots more information on ATLAS.ti. But that being said, I'll go ahead and conclude my part of the presentation, and we can now take time for any questions that anyone may have. So if you have any questions about your own project, perhaps, or if you'd like to revise anything that we saw today with ATLAS.ti, well, please feel free just to write in the chat box that we have here, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions while we're all here together. I'm putting up my contact information here once again, in case you would like to take a note of our email and phone number. And so as well, if you'd like to also contact us personally to ask your questions, please feel free. We're more than happy to help. And if you decide to purchase ATLAS.ti, definitely don't forget to send me an email, and I'll pass you that 10% discount coupon. So we can take just a few minutes if anybody would like to ask any questions. And meanwhile, I'll also take advantage just to show where you can all find more information on ATLAS.ti. So if you go to our website, ATLAS.ti.com, well, from here, you can download our free trial version. Under Product, you'll see Free Trial Version. And so there you can directly download ATLAS.ti for Mac or for Windows, and then begin using the software on your own computer. To continue learning more about ATLAS.ti, just take a look under our Learning tab, and you'll see we have a great variety of options there. We have a free training options, such as the webinar that we're in today, and of course, please feel free to always attend another of our webinars. And then those premium trainings, the video tutorials that I mentioned as well, so you can review any part of ATLAS.ti. You have all this available on our website. So I can see that Beverly is asking, is it possible to import a coded document into a new project without losing the coding and comments? So if you have, um, so the short answer is that yes, of course, you can move your projects around, but you can't move a document in the sense of I'm just going to move this particular document into another project. If you wanted to, well, I suppose in what way are you thinking? If you want to also combine with different analyses, because actually with any so for any literature review, I mean, you would just import all of your articles into one single project and then analyze it there. And so that way you can also analyze all of the emerging trends across all the information. But then if you would also like to use this for another kind of analysis, another kind of literature review, well, you can make a copy of that project and then have a second version and continue working from there. So I hope that that answers your question, Beverly. Or maybe if you were thinking of a different, more specific scenario, you can also send me an email and let me know about your own project, and I'd be more than happy to give a more specific answer there. And so if there are any other questions, we can take a couple minutes more. Great, okay, I'm happy to hear I could help you, Beverly. Thank you. And I see Fernando saying, thank you very much for explanation. Thank you, Fernando. I'm happy to help. I hope that you all, I hope that you all learned something new in today's webinar, and you now have a better idea of how you can use ATLAS.ti, and you're ready to download that free trial version, import your own articles, and then begin creating your quotations and your codes, writing in your memos, create your networks and use the different analysis tools, and then with that, to elaborate a great literature review. And Beverly also asks, is it possible to change the view in Windows to show more information? It seemed the Mac display showed more information in a single view. So yeah, I mean, referring to that panel on the right-hand side in Mac, it's true that in Windows you don't have this, but the Windows version does have a more sort of, well, complex or comprehensive Explorer panel, in that you can visualize more and more information on each of the different documents here by clicking on the arrows. So for example, now I can see the list of all the quotations that are from this document. If we click again, we can see the codes associated. And so you can really continue going into more and more detail. So here we can see that these two codes are linked by argue. So that link was created in a network somewhere in the project, and ATLAS.ti is showing that. And so you can really continue to go down more and more and see from this document what quotation came out, what code we had associated, and how is this code related to other codes in the project. So you do have this difference between ATLAS.ti for Windows and Mac. But to see all that information, always for all that information, you can refer to the different managers. And so here we have the document manager. And so again, we have all that additional information on each specific object. The comment space down below where we've written the full reference of each one. We get a preview here. And so definitely from the managers, you always have all that information. And I see, and how do you import a video? Oh, that's an excellent question. And well, you can import videos, audios, images, any of these just by clicking on Add Files. So the same way as with the documents. Now, if you're planning on working with a lot of video or audio files, or perhaps it's a very long video, then what would be an even better option is to link that video or audio file. And why do we have this? Well, because when a video or audio is very large and it's a very heavy file, it can slow down the computer and slow down ATLAS.ti a bit, especially if you have many videos. And so instead of importing them directly into ATLAS.ti and having that file copied into ATLAS.ti, you can just link it, and then ATLAS.ti will create a link to that video in your computer and then show it in the software. And from there, it'll show up exactly the same, just like any other document. You'll have the video in the list here, and then you can also analyze it, create quotations, associate codes. And so if you're interested in analyzing videos, audios, or images, you can definitely take a look on our video tutorials and also see how we can create quotations and associate codes there. So while we're talking about importing different kinds of data, I'll also show that under the Import and Export tab, this is where you can find the access to import Twitter data, Evernote data, your references that we did see before. If you work with surveys and open-ended questions, you can also import that data into ATLAS.ti and again have it automatically organized. And if you happen to have a list of codes already created, you can import those into ATLAS.ti as well. You can also export your current list of codes if you wanted to have that saved in an Excel file. And if you're conducting any mixed methods research, you can also export the entire ATLAS.ti project to SPSS. So just so you know, you have these different options available here as well. So I see that Kenneth has asked, we have a couple of people working on the same documents in their own project bundle. When we try to merge, it duplicates the documents. So instead of 20, we'll all have 40. Is there a way to merge the bundles together without duplicating the number of documents? That's a great question, Kenneth. And so I can see that you're already involved in teamwork and you're familiar with how that works in ATLAS.ti. So having each person work on their own project and then exporting it and merging them all together. Now, it sounds to me, Kenneth, that in your case, each person imported their own documents into their project. And that's why ATLAS.ti is adding those additional ones instead of combining them. So see, the way that ATLAS.ti works is that anytime we add any object to the project, it gets its own unique ID number. And that goes the same for documents. And then when you merge two projects, what ATLAS.ti does is it looks at the ID numbers, and if the IDs are the same, then it'll combine the information there. If the IDs are different, then it'll add whatever is new. And so it sounds like what's going on here is that each of the documents have that different ID because each person added it on their own, and that's why that's happening. If I'm wrong, Kenneth, and that's not your case, then please send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to go into more detail with this, in more detail about this with you, and to help you out there and to see what's going on with merging the project, and then yeah, we can see what we can figure out there. Okay, so you see that's what we thought, just weren't sure if there was a better way. So the ideal thing for team, I mean, if in that sense, if everyone in the team is going to be analyzing the same set of documents, then the ideal thing would be to have one person, we'll call it the project coordinator or master. That person creates the project, imports the documents, exports it, and then sends it to everyone. And then each person opens it on their own computer. They can change the name to put their name, and then analyze, code, write the memos, do all the work that they want to do, and then export the project and send it back to the project master, and then you can merge all of them. And then in that case, the documents wouldn't be duplicated because they all came from that same first project. So, Kenneth, definitely please send me an email. And actually, we have a lot of more information on conducting teamwork with ATLAS.ti that I'd be more than happy to provide you with. So with that, thank you, Kenneth. Yeah. And with that, I'll go ahead and start closing our webinar for today. So we saw a lot of new information and a lot of new things about ATLAS.ti, and I hope that everyone's learned something new and is now ready to begin their literature review with ATLAS.ti. But of course, for any questions or doubts you may have, please don't hesitate to contact us, or also to ask for that 10% discount coupon if you decide to purchase the software. So I thank you all for your interest and for your time today. And well, other than that, I just wish you all the best of luck in your literature reviews and your work with ATLAS.ti. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Goodbye.